took the liberty of removing the lower rear corners on the 64 Econoline. Getting this thing prepped up to weld new steel pieces in. Passenger side looks like it's going to be pretty straightforward. Still need to remove the inner lip from the rear corner from the factory. There's a few spot welds, and I'm hoping that the lip that's on the rear fender will be in well enough shape to weld to. I doubt it will be, but I'm going to hope and cling to that. But I cut back to good metal, and we will match the patch panel up to that. In that fashion, relatively. Going to take quite a bit of trimming, but this panel actually appears to be stamped fairly well. A little bit of metal work should get it into good shape in no time. So the passenger side, I'm not too worried about. The driver's side is quite a bit of a different story. Same idea though. Still need to remove the inner lip from the rear fender. Had to cut up quite a bit higher to get to good metal on the driver's side. And even then, this is, I wouldn't say good, I would say goodish. But I've certainly welded to worse, so we're gonna run with that. But cutting it up so high means that we will need to make a patch panel for the patch panel. But that certainly isn't the end of the world. This contour here with the taillight flare may be a little tricky. Let's see what we can work out. But the unfortunate thing about the driver's side is how god-awful this repair panel is. I mean, that is, it's a face a mother wouldn't love. Like the creases on the sides are terrible. Uneven widths everywhere. It's just shy of an abomination, really. But I'm gonna try working with it. Not sure how, but I'm gonna try it. That's just hideous. It's unbearable. So yeah, we'll probably start with the passenger side. Since that looks to be the easiest, warm up a little bit with that. And then once we nail that on the first try, we will come back over and mess around with this piece on the welding table. See if we can't do something with this patch panel. We'll definitely have to make that extension for the top as well. Let's get to it. The driver's side is super gnarly. So gnarly that it's almost comical that I have to drill out the spot welds in order to remove this little bit of skin that's left over from the corner. I don't know why I do this. I look at this and it makes me question my life choices. But we need to find the spot welds in all of this chaos, which I believe we got one here. I believe that's one there. That's definitely one. Number 4. I guess that's probably one. And then I really don't know what's going on in here. That's one there. Kind of start feeling the recess for them. Sometimes you can feel them from the front, sometimes you can feel them from the backside. That's one there. And I'm willing to put money on, once we get all of these remaining spot welds out, this one spot weld that is mostly rusted completely off, and whatever this is, that will surely hold this whole piece on there, without a doubt. Everything else will be drilled and cut, and the 2 most rotted spot welds on the face of the earth will hold this whole thing up. But we're here, we've come this far, and I've got time to waste and beer to drink, so let's do it.
Where can I run away tonight that I've not been before? How can I lose myself tonight?
What did I tell you? This rusted out bastard here somehow managing to hold the rest of that piece on. Its strength lies in its non-existence. It's incredible. This is the passenger side rear corner. Have it rough cut to generally fit the opening that we have on the truck. But what I need to address before it gets welded on is some of this wrinkling from the stamping. It's not great, especially on this corner here. It's all gnarled up. That being said, I am not a body man. I think it would be generous to say that I'm a body boy at this point, working on becoming a body man. So I'm sure there's some piece of equipment and a legitimate technique that one could implement to straighten this out. But I'm just going to wail on it with a sledgehammer and try to flatten it out the best I can. I'm hoping that I can keep some of these curves, because I know that once I start flattening these out, it's going to push out somewhere. So I'll do the best I can to keep an eye on that. But this thing is rough around all the edges, so I don't know if I can do much worse to it. I'm also going to try to crease these edges a little bit more to see if I can get a little closer to a 90. Because when I was kind of rough mocking this up, the kind of loose bends that meet up to the other body panels, because they're not creased very well, it leaves a pretty decent sized gap. So I'm going to try to crease those in such a way that they'll fit up to the existing body panels on the truck. Yeah, let's see what we can do.
Within the dark, my soul remote and lifeless rock. There is no shape or form, 'tis incarnate. There is no peace I felt.
So after beating on it and running the edges through the brake on the vise, what we're left with. Edge is a little bit more crisp, but as you can see with this curvature on this edge, the vice brake is not the ideal tool, but it got us most of the way there. This, though, is, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with that. I'll keep thinking on that one. However, the bottom edge straightened out relatively well enough. And here's the tailgate edge, or tailgate side. See that edge is much crisper. Yeah, so we'll take it over the truck, see how it's fitting, and start finessing it a little more sledge finesse. This is the passenger side rear corner, loosely mocked up after doing the sledgehammer metal work. Not terrible. Far from perfect, but not terrible. There's definitely some inconsistencies in the width right here that's going to need to be addressed. We're going to make a filler panel to bridge the rear corner and the uprights, so hopefully we can address that at that point. I'm going to attempt to do some plug welds on the seam here the way it was from the factory, but the quarter panel behind the wheel well is a little rough, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we're going to try it. The gap between the two panels is not hateful. Still see this little gnarled up dingleberry protruding out the bottom. Still not sure what I'm going to do with that. Part of me thinks that it's below this body line, so who cares? But I'd feel like a real ass painting over something like that, knowing it was there. But as time goes on, I may come to terms with it and just learn to live with it. Anyway, that's the passenger rear corner. Just needs a little bit of trimming and then some welding prep. Not sure how I'm going to work this panel into that rear cross member. If I'm going to work it into that, or if I'm just going to get a roll pan. So now that the passenger rear is done, we're moving over to the driver's side. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we have, we have whatever this is to deal with, and I'm most likely going to hammer out as much as I can, like I did on the passenger side. Then I'm thinking about cutting out some of this folded material along the seam, pressing the pieces back together. Maybe take like the TIG torch and meld it. But there's all kinds of just waviness over this piece. I mean, it is downright shameful is what it is. It's embarrassing to think that somebody made this and thought it was good enough to sell, but here it sits. So we'll just get the old sledgehammer warmed up and start beating on it. This is where we're at post schlobber knocking. You see I cut out a lot of metal to get that wrinkle out. And there's still some wrinkling in there for sure. But for being the underside of this panel, it's better than it was. So I'll fill that gap. Once that's filled, I'll do a little more hammering, try to straighten that out some more. But overall, a little less hateful than it was. Cleaned up those edges. Have a much nicer crease in those. Be able to get a good bit of the waviness out of here as well. Again, not perfect, but what is in this life? And then once we get that piece over the truck, I'm going to use the trimmings from the passenger side that I cut down. That already generally has somewhat of the curvature needed. So yeah, let's get it mocked up on the truck. The driver's side mocked up. Body line is getting there, and I think it will get there. However, this panel appears to be considerably short. So I'm contemplating whether or not I should straighten this bend out and re-bend it further in to try to make up for that gap. But I have a sneaking suspicion that'll look like hot shit. And I don't know if it's from me hammering on it and creasing these edges and trying to form this piece. I know everything kind of shrinks and expands through those processes. But I was looking at the passenger side, and you see how short this bend is. Let's call it a 1/2 inch. It's exaggerated here by the factory piece. Compared to this, which is damn near 1 inch. So I don't know if the crease was just put in too far. So I'm going to continue to work on this and see how close I can get it without getting all pissy and dramatic about it. And then I think once everything is as close as I can get it, we'll fire the camera back up and get to some welding. But she's getting there. Kicking and screaming, but it is getting there.
for all, headless to
passenger side rear lower corner tacked into place. My golly, it doesn't look half bad. Install went pretty smoothly. Was able to nail down some pretty solid rosette welds. And while not the prettiest thing on the block, they are fairly strong. And I think they'll do nicely. I was able to keep most of the body lines and angles and dangles and all that good stuff in line. In line enough that you'll never notice it. Yeah, I'm into it. A little bit of a weird gap here, but I was not able to contour this piece enough to fit the rear quarter here. So I just made do with what the good Lord gave me. But yeah, not too hateful. Driver's side, rear lower corner, also tacked into place. You can see the patch addition here, which I already ground down real quick. The seam here, bridge that gap there. I was able to keep the contour of the tail lens bucket intact, which is going to save me a good bit of time. However, the overall length of this piece was way too short. And you can see the original seam where it was bent. About a ½ inch too short on the top and about a quarter too short on the bottom. And I rebent it, and as you can see, there is considerable difference on that compared to the passenger side. That's a problem for another day. Again, same gapping issue on this side, a little bit more pronounced, but meh. Also, the underside turned out all right. Straightened out a good bit of the wrinkles and patched the gap, and it's fair. So everything is in place. We got good lines, got good tacks. I think it's about time for a welding time lapse.